If for some reason that.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's nice.
It's $20 each.
That's it. Give it to you. Yes, sir. Have a receipt, please. Oh, yes. You didn't even need it. You thrown it away. Is that all right?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Law and has been duly advertised in the newspaper as an official meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Spalto. Mr. Herman.
Here.
Mr. Acevedo. Present. Mr. Bernanke.
Present.
Mr. Sargent.
Present.
Mr. Walsh.
Present.
Mrs. Rivera.
Present. I need a motion for approval of the agenda with addendums.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spalto. Mr. Herman.
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo.
Yes.
Mr. Bernanke.
Yes.
Mr. Sargent.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera.
Yes. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Primelli for her superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight on a very summer-like evening. in April is kind of silly and crazy, but it's nice that it's not freezing and we're all bundled up. So as always, I like to start my superintendent report with our student board reports from each of our high schools. And tonight I will start with Jade over at Liberty. If you could come to the podium and give us an update on Liberty. Thank you, Jade.
I don't have to switch it out. I'm sorry. I don't have to switch it out. The cover. Okay. Thank you.
Get real close to the microphone.
Oh. Good evening, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you for having me speak at tonight's meeting. I'm so sorry that you haven't seen me all in a while, but I'm back and ready to report to you on all of the happenings during the month of April going on at Liberty. Liberty's sports have been in full gear, and our teams are pushing themselves to be their best selves. Our girls volleyball team advanced to the state championship with two seniors, Riley Stewart and Chelsea Ross, being invited to play in the Shore Conference B South Division team. The boys wrestling team had 4 members, Stephen Schmitz, Jake Klein, Chimidindu, Malawak, and Anthony Orusso compete in the regionals tournament, where Anthony placed 5th and Chimmy placed 2nd, and competed in this week's state tournament. We are so proud of our athletes that they continue to break records while maintaining good sportsmanship and adjusting to the changes of COVID protocols. The spring sports are up and running with their opening weeks behind them. Even though they are missing their usual preseason times to develop, everyone is just happy to be back on the field since it was a long year away from the sports that they have loved. Stay tuned to hear about all of our teams as they will accomplish at the end of their seasons. As our school year starts to wind down, one of the clubs that have been faced with so many challenges this year is our very own Liberty's Drama Club. After everything that has happened this year, they have succeeded in putting on their production of Cinderella last week. This virtual event was wonderful, and we are so proud of all of the artists, cast, and crew, and exceptional staff who helped put this show together. We are so proud of our senior members of the Drama Club and are excited to see what the underclassmen do in their years to come. We are all hoping that the next show will be performed in front of a packed auditorium. Our band has been working extra hard this year to keep their spirits high and the music flowing. The music department has been very busy as the band is currently working on their virtual concert happening this week. It will consist of 9 songs that they have been working on throughout the year, and the students are very excited to perform virtually for their student body and families. The Music Honor Society has also been working on a virtual talent show that is set to premiere sometime in May. This gives the students a chance to showcase their unique skills and talents for everyone to see, and we are so excited for this concert and talent show to have our students showcase their passions and talents. The National Honor Society has been doing their best to serve within the Jackson community. The NHS is focused on nominating officers for the 2021-2022 school year. This will give the students a chance to showcase some fresh new ideas within the club and to start to plan for next school year. Also, the NHS is focused on spreading positivity around Liberty, as their positive posters and happy slogans garnered so much support from both students and staff at Liberty. NHS wishes to maintain a cheery environment in Liberty, especially for all of the students who have come back full-time now. We are so grateful for the National Honor Society for all of their accomplishments, and I hope that they continue to create change within our community. JTV is also doing wonderful things to not only help our Jackson community, but bring more joy back into our students' lives. JTV has been busy broadcasting an assortment of athletic events with both our broadcast truck and new gymnasium cameras in both high schools, and these cameras were installed with cooperations from Central Administration. JTV and our school district electrical department, the new cameras give JTV the ability to broadcast every athletic event from the gyms in both high schools and outside as well. They're also starting to prepare for their big event, the Feronis. This year's theme will be the evolution of music. This will give the JTV, Drama Club, dance team, and other students a chance to showcase their creativity and love for the program at school. I'm so excited to be a part of this show this year and cannot wait to bring you back into time what we have in store for all of you this year. With AAPI Heritage Month coming next month, Nations Among Nations is doing their very best to try and plan activities to celebrate the community. The NAN members will be working on a pillar painting in Liberty per the request from the school library. NAN is also gearing up for the tutoring program with Asbury Park School District, which just started last week. And NAN is constantly doing its best to not only serve the community surrounding us, but be inclusive in celebrating different communities in a positive light. Our student council also implemented its own program within Liberty, as they are actively seeking feedback from students to make their needs better. They have implemented this with the Google form where students can share their concerns and give solutions for the problems within our school that may otherwise be overlooked. They are working hard to stay in touch with the student body so that there can be a sense of togetherness and happiness. The Student Council has also implemented a celebration of acts of kindness. They will do this by having students nominate their peers they feel that deserve this award. These things will be joined to our students' lives as they are adjusting to the changes going on during this time, and we are so excited to have these fresh ideas be brought to the table by our very own Student Council. The month of April has been a wonderful month for our Lions, with the second marking period ending soon and our sports doing well and preparing for the final months of school year. Our Lions are doing their very best to stay strong, with the activities being in session and 5 days a week schedule coming into play. School is starting to feel like home again. Liberty has adapted to the changes going on around them and has created a safe and happy environment for our students, and our Lions are ready for their final school days that are to come and to push for greatness in all areas. Thank you.
As always, so proud of the students and staff at Liberty, and Jade, it's really good to see you tonight. Thank you for coming out. Now, for Tiffany, who normally gives us our memorial report, we have Dakota here, who's going to update us on memorial happenings. Dakota?
I can take this off, right? Good evening, Ms. Pormelli, board members, and everyone present here tonight. I'm here to brief you on the happenings at Jackson Memorial High School. Overall, April has been a thriving month at JMHS. For our seniors, in just 2 days, we'll be celebrating Commitment Day. Since May 1st ended up falling on a Saturday this year, the senior class voted and decided to celebrate on Friday, April 30th, 2 days from now. Throughout the entire senior class, there have been great acceptances, so we're all excited to see where our seniors will choose to belong for the next 4 years of their lives and, importantly, their education. The senior class officers and advisors are also working extremely hard to plan their senior event and look forward to some special senior events like Award Night and Scholarship Night. With Powder Puff being right around the corner, our junior and senior boys and girls are preparing to go head-to-head in competition for May 6th. The senior class is hoping to defend their winning title. Just yesterday, with limited attendance, we were able to pull off our annual tree planting ceremony in honor of Earth and Arbor Days. Some of our departments, such as Tech, World Language, and Math, were even able to present. After school yesterday, clubs like Student Council, the Interact Club, Key Club, and the NHS were able to participate in campus cleanup. With even these little events, with minimal attendance, things are starting to seem more and more normal at JMHS. Going along with the theme of normalcy, on April 19th, about 50% of Memorial students started 5 half-day in-person school days a week. With more people in class and less online, it's been much easier on not only our teachers, but also our students. Especially teachers and students who follow an AB day schedule, who have been able to adapt better to this AB day regularity. Having a full 5 days in person or a full 5 days online is allowing students to finally grasp a steady schedule, which is very exciting. Along with beginning to have a more steady schedule, our spring sports teams are in full swing. Our boys lacrosse team is currently undefeated. Our girls softball team has been making great progress this season and is looking to be ranked in the Shore Conference. Our boys baseball team has been playing very well overall. All in all, our spring sports teams have been amazing this season and are hoping to stay on winning streaks. With that being said, I will conclude my monthly update report. Thank you again to Ms. Pormelli and the Jackson Board of Education for your continued support.
Thank you, Dakota, for the information and for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. As Dakota mentioned, the baseball team at Memorial is doing a wonderful, phenomenal job. I was able to step out yesterday from my office and have an opportunity to see them and almost get hit by a foul ball. But it was great to see them play. It's wonderful. Also mentioned in both reports is the return of more students in our buildings, and I've also had the opportunity to be at both of the high schools and see our classrooms filled, and the energy of excitement for being together in the school has really it picked up tremendously. It's really nice to see. And again, as always, our students are incredible. They're resilient, as are our staff and our teachers. And tonight, we are actually on the stage. We normally are not on the stage because of the production of The Addams Family that's going to be put on here at Memorial May 7th, 8th, and 9th. If you're interested in seeing how you can watch the performance, please jump onto our website to see it. Just a little plug for that. Behind these black curtains is some wonderful scenery, and as you can see, we have our pit in front of us. So that's exciting. Looking forward to be able to watch that. Liberty just finished their performance of Cinderella, which was wonderful as well. So just a few updates in regards to a year where there's constant change and constant information to communicate about the things happening in our schools. And what's coming up is lots of time for activities and celebrations for end of year. So just a quick update. We know the governor has just released some new numbers for the schools and for indoor and outdoor gatherings. So we are excited to see those numbers and hear those numbers as we plan for graduations, promotions, and moving up ceremonies. As I've said before in the past, we are committed to do as much in person as possible, and we are still moving forward in that direction. Very soon, either tomorrow or Friday, and communication will go out to our seniors and their families in regards to graduations, being in person, and making sure that we can hold those things outdoors to the max capacity of what's allowed. So you'll see those communications coming soon. Followed shortly after that, there'll be communications about our middle school promotions, also committed to doing those outside to get the max amount of numbers for participants to be able to do in-person promotions. And then that will follow with our elementary 5th grade promotions with the same set. In regards to proms, as we know, we've had a challenge, and I appreciate that the governor has put information out about proms, but as I've said from the beginning, it was late. That's late information. If you're going to get a venue, you need to solidify those contracts very early on in the school year, and which was the case that we fell into here at Memorial with a much larger class than Liberty. There could have been $10,000 lost if we did not get to the number that was allowed for an outdoor gathering to what we needed. So there was a different event plan, a senior event planned at Black Bear, and the administrative team here, along with the senior class and their advisors, are currently working to see what else that they can do to provide an evening event for our Memorial students. So those plans are beginning to get finalized, and in the next week or so, there'll be some communication about any updates to proms as well. So we are aware of that, working on it, and are excited, and hopefully, as we heard through the governor's address this week, he is anticipating being able to raise those numbers even higher, which will help us be even more in person for things. So we will tweak and we will adjust accordingly as the numbers come out to us. Another update, we have, as you well know, Remote Academy is still working. Our middle school Remote Academy has had the opportunity to have a choice through a survey that was provided to return to school with some schedule changes possibility or teacher changes. And those students who have selected to return will be returning on May 3rd for in-person. We do have also families who have chosen to stay remote for the rest of the year. Our elementary remote students is much more challenging, I've said it from the very beginning, to bring our students back to in-person, as in order to create that remote setting in the beginning of the school year, we had to allow for a teacher to teach students in multiple schools. So in order to return students, it is a definite teacher change, schedule change, and the remote schedule at the elementary level runs differently than the in-person. So it would be extremely an interruptive process in the educational process for these students to return them. However, Mr. Ratante, working with Ms. Pagano-Hine, is working on some opportunity to at least provide some kind of opportunity for students to come to the school at some point during a day. So that information will be articulated soon as well. So we are currently, as we have been all year, monitoring and adjusting and planning all year long to do what's in the best interest of students to the capacity that we can. Before I move on to our presentations tonight, I do want to just again reference on our website that the U.S. Department of Education had done their public announcement. We have mentioned it before, that Switlick School has been awarded a Green School Award. That is a huge, significant award. Only 2 schools in the state of New Jersey have received it. And that award is based on innovative efforts to reduce environmental impact and utility costs, improve health and wellness, and ensure efficient sustainability education. And as I mentioned, 1 out of 2 schools, we were the 1 school out of 2 in the state of New Jersey that received it, so kudos to Mr. John Blair, Mr. Ostrov, and the Switlick team who have helped to make that happen. It's very impressive. So congratulations to Switlick. And if you go on to our district website, Ms. Irwin has posted a lot of excellent information that also talks about all of our other energy saving projects that have saved the district a significant amount of money. So please check that out. So tonight we do have a few presentations, including our board presentation for the adoption of our budget for the 21-22 school year. But first, I'd like to begin with Mr. Ritante, who is going to be sharing with you performance report information.
Point of order, Madam President, may I speak? I don't know if I'm the only one, but I have found it very difficult understanding 50% of what is being said. I wonder if we're maintaining distance protocol if the president and the superintendent can remove their mask while speaking, and if they could speak directly to the microphone, because we're not getting everything you're saying. I don't want to be...
So is this better? Can you hear me like this?
That's a little better.
Okay. I am 6 feet apart, so I will do that, and then just put it back on after I speak. So I'm
Anybody
sorry.
speaking should have a...
Yeah,
should
I know,
be
these
clear.
masks are difficult to hear through. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Acevedo.
I don't have to repeat everything I just said, do I?
What was that?
I said I don't have to repeat everything I just said, do I?
It's...
I'm just teasing. I will, obviously, if you didn't hear it, I would be happy to provide another update at another time to the board.
Face yourself.
Okay, Mr. Ritante?
Thank you, Mrs. Permilli. Thank you, Board of Education and the Jackson community for the opportunity to present the school performance reports that were just recently released by the Department of Education. These reports are released every year. Typically what these reports do is the bulk of these reports are assessment data. They show individual scores, school scores. They show trend lines of how schools have done over a period of multiple years. Because state testing did not take place last spring because of COVID, the data that you'll see here that involves test scores and assessment data is all dated. It's 2 years prior data, so the trend lines are really 2-year trend lines, not 3-year. There's no new data reported for the school performance reports based on last year. I'll also take this opportunity to announce that if any staff or students or parents have not seen, the state has also made the decision that they will not be doing state testing as well this school year. We will be sending an official notification home to all of our community, letting them know that tomorrow. But that is good news that the state has waived our state testing responsibilities for this year, which will allow our teachers really the maximum amount of instructional time that they need based on how much we've lost over the course of the school year and not have to take time out for some state assessments. We'll continue doing our in-house assessments for the remainder of the school year that we've done in years past, so we do have some information and have data that we can help drive our instruction and allow our kids to be the best they can be. The one thing I do want to point out in the school performance report is they do have some data points that I will share with you, a few of the ones that do relate directly to our district. But there is one thing that's not in this performance report. It's no way to quantify it in numbers, but the perseverance that our students, our families, our parents, our community, our staff have really taken on over the past year between program changes, half days, remote learning, transitioning to synchronous learning, everything that's had to change over the past year so that we could stay ahead and provide as much as we were allowed to based on the guidelines to our students. I really do commend everyone that's been a part of that, from our youngest student to our most senior teachers. Everyone has really stepped up, and I couldn't be prouder of what they've been able to do in spite of very, very challenging times. The information that is included in this performance report that I'll kind of touch on is they do have information regarding some college and career readiness, graduation and post-secondary information, as well as some enrollment numbers. Everything that I'll be reviewing tonight is snapshots. The entire report can be found on the state website as well as on our district website. Every year, the state provides an opportunity and a link, which I'll share at the end, to provide feedback based on the school performance reports. Every year they do take that feedback and they do adapt it into the new reports for the upcoming school year. So based on feedback that came in last year, what you'll see in this year's report is improved visuals, some different graphics. They've included some additional information regarding graduation cohorts, and they also this year included a section on some of the COVID-19 impacts that the schools have had. One of really the key information that's provided in the school performance reports is our enrollment trends. So over the last 3 years through the 1920 school year, you can see our overall enrollment. Although we've had a slight drop, over the 3-year stretch, it's a little over 200 students over that 3-year stretch. Keep in mind, the Jackson School District has 10 schools and over 400 classrooms. So when we lose 200 students, it equates to about a half a student per classroom. So while the number 200 might seem significant, it's really a very insignificant drop in the amount of students in what we do every day in all of our schools. Next. The next slide shows the graduation data. There it is. So what they did this year, this is a new change. They've broken the graduation data up into both 4-year and 5-year graduation trends. Obviously, your typical high school student is on the 4-year cycle and graduates in 4 years. We do have several students, however, that do continue on for a variety of reasons, including some special education students, some special programs that we run, and those students do stay in our schools for 5 years. What you can see from this report is, both Liberty and Memorial are consistently above the state graduation rate. And what you can see as well from our 5 years, if you take out our non-continuing students after 5 years, we have almost a 98% graduation rate. So these are numbers that we always look at. It's something that our goal for every student is to make them successful and make sure that they can graduate and move on to wonderful things once they leave our Jackson schools. The post-secondary enrollment information that's posted on the school performance report talks a little bit about our SAT information, talks about this slide specifically focuses on our post-enrollment data from our class of 2019. So these are the seniors from the class of 2019 for the following year and into the fall of 2020, whether they had any type of post-secondary enrollment. So you can see our overall student population as about 76.9% of our students have gone on to either a 4-year or 2-year college within 16 months after graduation. That breakdown is, of that 76.9%, 61 are attending 4-year schools and 38% are attending 2-year schools. Our guidance department does a tremendous job of working with all of our senior students and providing them not just college opportunities after graduation, but workforce, our VOTEC programs, our trade schools, a lot of other opportunities as well that we provide in our guidance department through our Naviance program, through some district-sponsored college programs we have, financial aid programs, and of course, I want to highlight our scholarship night where we give a tremendous amount of money to our senior class to help them attain additional education after high school. The college and career readiness slide highlights the amount of our students that have taken the PSAT 10. Now, we do have 95.5%, and I will say we do provide that for our students in school. So that is a very high number, but because we take the time and effort to make sure that our students have that opportunity to take the PSAT in 10th grade. The next number is the number of 12th graders that took the SAT in high school. We do fall below the state in this number. However, keep in mind, come March of last year, they canceled all SAT courses. So while students did have SAT courses scheduled in March, April, May, and June of last year, all of those tests were canceled, and that's not really reflected in this number. So typically, we're a little higher than the 67%, but COVID kind of did impact us a little bit on that number there. One thing I'm really proud of on this slide is the percent of our CTE participants. CTE stands for College Career and Tech Education classes. So those would be courses that we offer such as woodshop, robotics, computer science, family and consumer science. We do a tremendous job at our high schools of providing a lot of opportunities for kids to find programs, to find areas where they can find success, where they enjoy, and really help them find careers or college programs that they want to look forward to after college. So we had over 40% of our students involved in CTE programs last year, which is a tremendous asset to both of our high schools here in Jackson. And something new is our Seal of Biliteracy, where we had 22 students completing our Seal of Biliteracy as well last year. The last informational slide that I want to jump into is the early childhood education. This is an important slide, in my opinion, because it really represents how many of our 3- and 4-year-olds and kindergartners we have in the district. We provide a special needs program for our 3 and 4s, as well as a general ed program for our 3 and 4-year-olds. And to get, to over 200 students each year in that program, it really does give our students a leg up to be successful once they get to our kindergarten programs and beyond. I will say as well that next year we will not be running the half-day preschool programs anymore. All of our preschool programs will be full-day next year. So we'll have that same amount of students, but we'll have the opportunity to get them into full-day programs, which will really benefit those students and hopefully the families moving forward as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, all of this information is available not just for Jackson, but for any school in New Jersey at the njschooldata.org website. The information for feedback, if any parents or community want to provide feedback, is on there as well. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to discuss any of those questions that you may have. The one thing that our school performance, obviously not having any state testing data as a result of what the school year has been, we do have a need to make sure we're providing as much as possible for our students. So we're going to be offering several different summer programs and also programs into next school year. And I want to introduce Mrs. Teresa Lasitra, our Director of Curriculum, to kind of share what some of those summer options are going to be for our students at all levels this year.
Good evening. Good evening to the Board of Education, Mrs. Promilli, to administrators in the audience, and to the Jackson community. My name is Teresa Lasitra, and I am the Director of Curriculum in Jackson, and I am pleased to present to you our school district summer programs for the summer of 2021. The Jackson School District provides for learners every summer, and programs that we have provided have been very successful in the past. So this year, the district will be extending their offerings. This year, it's more important than ever due to the losses suffered during the past year. Our programs target student abilities, readiness, and interest. All of our programs will be in-person learning opportunities that are taught by certified Jackson School District teachers. We have programs on all 3 levels. At the elementary level, we have a summer learning program. We have increased the capacity for this program. It focuses on core content areas, engagement activities, and unified arts programs such as physical education and art. The extended school year program is offered by the Special Education Department, and it provides learning opportunities for students to maintain performance levels as designated by their IEPs. The elementary enrichment program is new this year. It is a cross-curricular model that embeds reinforcement, enrichment, and acceleration across content areas at the elementary division. Our middle school programs have a summer jumpstart program. This year, it's being offered to both students at Getz and McAuliffe. It encompasses STEM activities and concepts while integrating the components of literacy, math, and social-emotional learning. The extended school year program provides learners in grades 6 through 8 with summer learning experiences based on their IEPs. The advanced math program provides opportunities for learners in advanced math as they continue to work on mathematical skills and concepts during the summer as they prepare for the next grade level. The enrichment program, again, which will be new this summer, provides problem-based learning experiences for middle school students that will extend, accelerate, and reinforce their learning across the content areas. The middle school acceleration program in literacy and math provides learners with additional opportunities for reinforcement and remediation. We also will be offering programs at the high school level. The Extended School Year Program, or ESY, that provides IEP-driven instruction to learners in grades 9 through 12 plus. We do have some learners that go beyond 12th grade. Our district JPIC or JPIC program is Jackson Progressing into Careers. That provides learners with vocational training, career readiness, and socialization experiences. The high school enrichment program will offer courses in coding, book clubs, SAT prep, STEM, biology, and math. The acceleration program provides opportunities in core content areas such as ELA, math, science, social studies, physical education, world language, and special ed for both reinforcement and remediation. All of these programs have been designed for our students within our community. Again, as I said in the beginning, they would be taught by Jackson certified teachers, and as we just posted the postings for these positions this past week, our plan then is to present flyers to the community sometime in mid-May. So that's our timeline to be able to talk about this program to our community and provide them with opportunities for continued summer learning. We know that students are all at different places and have varying strengths and challenges. The goal of our district and of our programs is to provide learners what they need to move forward. And we are very confident that these programs will target their needs, interests, and abilities. So any questions?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead, Mr. Acevedo.
The JPIC program, how closely coordinated are we with the county vocational school?
So the county used to present that program in our district, and then due to different funding changes, we provide that program here, and we write our own curriculum. It's aligned with some of the standards for VOTEC, but is truly a Jackson curriculum written by our Jackson team, and we provide those services and opportunities to the students in our community. So it's aligned, but it's Jackson made and implemented.
Is there a coordinated communication between the VOTEC and the school district about what we're doing, planning to do, what we stopped doing?
For the JPIC program, as far as the planning phase, yes, but its implementation is at Liberty High School, and it's a program unto itself. But they do collaborate and coordinate ideas, but the actual program housed at Liberty is just our program.
I, for one, have experience teaching to the test, which I believe in, because the best schools prepare their kids on how to take a test. Very often they're very smart. They don't know how to take a test. Do we have that to prepare them for SAT, all other advanced state tests, and for testing in the school? Do we have that for the summer?
Yes, we have those classes will be offered during the summer, and those classes are free of charge to our Jackson students. The flyers and the registration information hasn't been released yet, but our plan is to do that in mid-May.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Rotante.
Sure.
Okay.
He or she, thank you.
It's in the chart it showed that the differential between Hispanics and non-Hispanics for college attendance in the state was down by 1%, which is okay, doable. But the white category was 3%, which might not seem like a lot, but that's 3 times the Hispanic. Okay, so what is going on there? I'm concerned about those 3 points where our white students are not doing as well as they should as it relates to the state.
That slide specifically focuses on kids going to a secondary school at the end of the 16 months. We have a lot of students that go to vocationals or careers or things like that and not go to college.
Mr. Rotante, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you go to the mic so that we can capture that? Thank you.
Yes, but for the sake of accuracy, is there any way that we can clarify that include that fact that our kids continue on, our white kids, so-called white kids, and that they're competing and they're in there? Because basically, I'm concerned if it's a real number, that 3% of a very large school district, a certain group of kids is down.
Yeah, the school performance report only focuses on 2 or 4 year college enrollment at the end of the 16-month cycle. We keep some of the in-house data as far as what the kids who are not attending 2 or 4 year colleges are doing. I can get some of that data to you over the next week.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Atante or Ms. LaCitra before I move on?
So I understand the summer program will have SAT prep?
Yes.
Okay, and general test prep, both?
We have different courses that we're providing right now, where we're looking at a course in coding, we're looking at an SAT prep course, we're also looking at courses in language arts and STEM. So exactly just a regular testing class, that wasn't something that we were looking to provide at this time, but we haven't put out any of that information yet. We wanted to see the interest in the SAT class before we move forward and add additional choices.
How about the fine arts? Art, dance, are we having anything for those programs?
We have unified arts at the middle school, and we have that also at the elementary school, and at the high school we're offering classes for coding and for world language.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Anything else? Anything else before we move on?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Atante, Ms. LaCitra, thank you very much. So moving on to another presentation we have this evening, we are fortunate enough to have Mrs. Bender here, an art teacher from Liberty, who's going to share a very exciting grant that she has been working on for the last year and has yet again applied for that same grant. It's an exciting opportunity for our students in the art program, but it's also an exciting opportunity for the entire population of Liberty. Ms. Bender?
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Board of Ed, to Ms. Permilli. My name is Megan Bender. I am an art teacher at Jackson Liberty High School. I've been there since 2008. Last year, I attended the art teacher convention in the fall and went to a workshop where a school had presented the idea of having a mindfulness garden, and that's where this whole thing kind of came about. I've been at Liberty for basically my entire career, and it's a beautiful school with so many awesome courtyards that are completely empty. And as an artist, it's been on my mind for years and years to kind of tackle those courtyards, and I had no idea how to start or where to even kind of begin. And I just happened to be sitting in this presentation where an art teacher was explaining how she applied for a grant to have a resident artist come and work with her students. So here I am. Last year I applied for the Artist in Education Residency Grant and won it. It was a very bright light in June last year to find this out. It is a grant that places a resident artist in the school with my students for 20 days throughout the course of a year. It is valued at over $11,000, and it is meant to impact our curriculum, to bring something to the students and the teachers that we don't normally get to experience in our normal curriculum. So I found out I got it in June, and then there was a waiting period in the summer to figure out what was going to happen with that. And then the fall rolled around, and they said we were a go, but we had to wait. So finally interviewed an artist. We got an artist, and her name is Gail Scuderi. She is a ceramic and glass mosaic artist, and we started with her really on the third day of the second semester. So I had all new classes, all new students. On day 3, they got to meet Miss Scuderi, and we pretty much have been full steam ahead since. We had to plan for, pretty much anything and everything that could have possibly happened. We had to have backup plans about, whether or not we were going to actually be in school, virtual, snow days. And at the high school level, my second semester classes are pretty much 50-50. I have about 50 students that are 50% of my students are in person, and 50% of my students are full remote. So those are just some of the challenges that I got to try to tackle with this program. But it's been amazing. She works with about 75 students every Friday over the course of 3 different classes. So she's with us pretty much from period 1 to period 3. Period 1 you could see is a mixed class, a sculpture class. Period 2, she's working with the freshman JAA drawing students. Period 3, she's working with our AP students, both drawing and graphic design. And then we also have Ms. Forsyth, who is one of the other art teachers. She is involving her junior class. They just don't get to meet with Gail, so they work on the project without the artist, so she didn't fit in the actual time. So that's just a little bit about who is involved. And then you're probably wondering what we're doing. Well, we have decided to create 3 permanent sculptures that are going to be installed in the courtyard right off of the main hallway. They're going to be vertical garden sculptures, and each one of the 3 classes is working on a different pole. So we're hoping that this is really just the beginning of that mindfulness sculpture garden idea that I've been tossing around in my brain, and it's really, really exciting. So these are some of the images that were inspirational images. The one on the left is from another residency that Gail had done with elementary students. The one on the right is from good old Google Images. And then students met with Gail in the first couple of weeks, and we decided on what we wanted to make. So we are working with clay and glass tiles. The first period class is working on organic forms, and our pole is going to be nature themed. The second period class, which is the drawing class, is working on the mosaic pole. And then the third period class is working on a geometric kind of form that is all going to be based around the theme of Jackson Liberty. Here is Gail working with some of our students, rolling out slabs of clay. And these are just the beginning pieces on the right, waiting to be fired. The 2 on the right are the geometric ones, and the 2 on the left are some of the organic ones. Some students working. The one on the left, you can kind of get an idea for what this pole is going to look like when it's all assembled. Those pieces are going to slide over a PVC pipe. Here's some more students working. Some more pieces waiting to be glazed. More of the Jackson Liberty ones. And then I can't thank there's so many people that have been involved in this project and helping us. So Mr. Joe Lux and I got covered in sawdust one day making the base for the concrete that is going to hold the one pole. Andy, our maintenance man, has been amazing in helping me mix concrete and get it secured into the ground. So all of those pieces are now outside, and we're just waiting for the artwork to be complete. What's really great about this project is that there's still room for us to grow. So this was one of the images that I pulled from that original presentation that I had watched. And although it's not our courtyard, I can very much see our courtyard turning into that. I'm also the Art Honor Society advisor, and hopefully next year when things are a little bit more normal, we have plans to do a mural out in the courtyard. I've already spoken to a bunch of science teachers about, getting some gardens going, and I have reapplied for the grant for next year to hopefully get an artist to come in and help us create another sculpture that can incorporate water so that we can use art to function and help irrigate some of these new plants that we hope to grace the courtyard with. So that's pretty much it. Any questions or?
Of course, yes. When we built Liberty, we made sure that there was a platform, I don't know if you've seen it, for performances, poetry, bands. Has that been used regularly?
Socrates courtyard that we call out in the front. I have taken my classes out there in the past to draw the building. I can't really speak for some of the other classes, so I'm not sure.
Because I would like for you to use that more. Also, if we could have memorial students invited to events using that amphitheater, it's sort of like a platform. Also, I had an art teacher in this school who was worked with Andy Warhol. As a matter of fact, he took us to his factory to meet him. We insulted him, he got angry, but anyway. So what we have is a lot of talent in this school, but we did have a problem with the ceramics when I first got on the board a million years ago. It was unsafe, there was no air circulation, chemicals, whatever, there were problems. We built the new studios, but are the facilities safe and sufficient, and are they adequate? That's what I want to know for ceramics.
They're unbelievable. The resident artist came in and was kind of blown away by my classroom and my ceramic situation. We have 2 kilns that have been functioning ever since I started, and yeah, it's state of the art. I can't really speak for this building. I'm only at Liberty, but my classroom is a dream.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I did want to mention, I forgot, one of the goals for the location of this sculpture is we hope that this will be a space not only used by our students, but the main hallway has become a place where we have lots of events in the district, whether it's art shows, induction ceremonies. I know our students have our homecoming dance in there. So the idea is to kind of extend that main hallway and open the doors and have that outdoor space as well. So all just the beginning stages, but very exciting.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any? Yes, Mr. Spolthoff.
As the father of incoming twin girls to Liberty next year, it was very pleasing to hear the inflection in your voice, the joy in what you're doing, and then also, as a school administrator myself, when you find a teacher who goes to a workshop and says, I'm going to find a way to make this happen and bring it to my school, and I know the work that's involved in applying for grants, and then being successful in getting a grant that brings essentially $11,000 plus invaluable experience and invaluable opportunity for our children. Congratulations, well done, and hopefully you're successful with the second one. And I look forward to seeing it for the next 4 years while my girls are there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for all the support. Thank you to Ms. Permilli, Ms. Lasitra, Mr. Brignola. Everybody has been 100% super supportive. So it really has been exciting. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bender. I would like to echo those same words of thank you and congratulations. Really appreciate your passion and your commitment to our students and the go-get-it kind of attitude to bring something that is a true, authentic experience to our students, to work with an artist in residence and to incorporate other content areas into the work that's being done into that courtyard is amazing. So thank you for your dedication. And we have several, I say it all the time, anytime I can brag, I will. We have incredible staff here who is always searching and looking for grants to help expand opportunities and create authentic experience for our students. Our staff really does a fabulous job. So kudos to everyone who goes out for those grants. Thank you. So moving forward, the last presentation of the evening is our proposed budget. I'm going to also go to the mic there, and Ms. Richardson and I will present our proposed budget. So this evening, as you have seen in last month's presentation, Ms. Richardson and I had presented the tentative budget for the 2021 school year. Tonight, we are presenting the proposed budget for submission to our county office. It is the same information that you have seen before. This is the process that we use. We build a budget, we do presentations, we share the full details of the tentative budget, and we present the full budget this evening for public comment and for information sharing. The process that we use, again, is in January, we begin presenting the schedule for how we will share the budget process publicly with our community and our board. We present on February 17th our presentations for our content areas and our department budgets, special education, curriculum, athletics, and those types of budgets, technology, guidance, were presented on February 17th. The tentative budget, again, was presented last meeting, and tonight we are presenting for public hearing. So, as presented last month, and any opportunity we have to share that in 2018, we know there was a law passed called S2, which drastically reduced the Jackson budget due to significant cuts in state aid. We have a significant amount of cuts due to state aid based on enrollment, according to the formulas in S2. It forces us to make some hard decisions because not only do we have to cut $4 million based on reduction of state aid, but we also have, obviously, increases every year in our budget, some of which are listed here on the screen, which includes contractual obligations. Every contract has an increase to some capacity of a percentage, so every year we need to raise the salary line by that percent of an increase. That is something that is not accounted for when the S2 cuts come down based on enrollment. Obviously, just with anything, whether it be your home or something else, your cars and your car's insurance, prices rarely go down for things, they go up. And so we continually see rising costs for software licenses. We use more licenses than we ever have. We have more technology than we've ever had, so those prices continue to rise, as do gas prices, insurance premiums, aid in lieu. Over the last 5 years, we've had a significant increase. We are up to spending $1 million in aid in lieu right now. Tuition increases for our out-of-district students continue to go up, even though the number remains the same. 2015, we have the same amount of out-of-district students right now, and the cost is $2 million more. And that is out of our control. We don't have control of those prices and those contracts going up. And additionally, this year, we were hit with another bill that required us to enroll new staff into an educational health plan, which then lowered the staff members' contributions to their benefits, so therefore costing the district more money. So we were in a perfect storm right now of these rising prices and costs to the district that are essentially out of our control and also cut to our state aid. This is the routine of scheduled cut aid that has been released for a while now, and you can see we're in the midst of the hardest parts of our cuts, which is $4.3 million, and then next year followed by another $4.1 million. Slated to lose overall over the S2 over the years, $19 million to the district. We've already lost $7.1 million. With that, we continue to build this budget. We worked hard to make a commitment to our students and these programs, our investment in curriculum, our technology, support our athletics and co-curriculars, as we know how important they are to a full rounded education for our students. Supporting our special education needs, our facility needs, and our transportation needs. We have a 5-year curriculum cycle. You can see there our cycle for adoption for this budget year coming up. We have world language, and we have health and PE. In both of those cases, we are working hard to reduce our costs of any new revisions that are needed. This year, we definitely need new resources for our world language program, so we will be looking to adopt those new resources. Ms. Lasitra is working now with that staff. So the impact of the funding losses, as I said last month, and I would continue to say, is the budget maintains our investments in instruction and curriculum and technology and program, but it does not allow the district to make improvements or expansions. Hence, you see our committed staff who are going out for grants to do that work. We are working hard to find other ways to bring those opportunities to our students. And certainly a bit of a saving grace for us this year is the ESSER monies and the CARES money that have come our way. The most recent ESSER 2 money is helping to fund many of the programs like Ms. Citra just explained to you this summer. It's allowing us to do those things that we certainly would not have been able to do had that money not been available to us because of the cuts that we've had to make. All year long, we work in cutting and looking where we can reduce prices and costs for things, but certainly the ESSER 2 funds have helped us to get this budget to a maintainable place for this year. But it certainly does not solve all of our problems, as you see on this slide. We still have staff cuts that will be necessary. When I presented this to you last month, it was 40 positions. As I said before, we work hard through attrition, retirements, and resignations to shift things around to save as many possible staff members as we can, and we were able to do that with some recent resignations and retirements, so now we are at 37 positions versus the 40. We'll continue to do that throughout the year and the summer to save as many as we can so that our class sizes do not have to get increased. So we are consciously working every day, making decisions to help this budget and provide savings and of costs and positions. And as I mentioned, the curriculum budget is reduced significantly. We are really a tight budget for a district this big. We have lost the Tier 1 projects. We are fortunate enough that we have a large ESIP project again. The district has gone out and looked for a grant, and kudos to our business office and everybody who has worked on the ESIP project. Mr. Ostroff has been fabulous and amazing, as has Mr. Blair and everybody else in the departments that work with him. That has saved us and been able to provide us a significant amount of work that is of no cost to the district. We'll be reimbursed for it. So that has helped us with that cut that has been there in front of us. We do have a reduction in some of our summer curriculum writing. We're finding other creative ways to do it. There is a significant reduction in our professional development in this budget, as there are in school supply budgets. Again, the ESSER funds will help a little bit with some of that, so it's not a complete wash, but it certainly does help support some more than what we thought we would have to cut. And then finally, on that last bullet there, as I mentioned before, we had planned a year ago to raise the athletic fees and activity fees, and we had paused that due to the pandemic. We have plans to continue to move forward with that for next year. I now turn it over to Ms. Richardson to give us some numbers.
Thank you, Mrs. Permilli. The tax information, we always talk about that every year because, we have a budget that's funded by state aid and the tax levy. It is the amount that we raise in taxes for the town of Jackson. The general fund tax levy and the debt service tax levy. Debt service is just for previously approved construction projects that have already been approved, so they're not new to us. If you go to the next slide, please. Our 21-22 proposed budget, these are the main areas. The general tax levy is $89 million. It's an increase of $1.7 million. It's a 2% increase from the prior year. Our state aid is going down $4.1 million. That's a 9.39% decrease. Our general fund, the total of our general fund is $138,992,000. It's a decrease of $3,366,000, a decrease of 2.37%. Our federal and state programs is a decrease also. It's for the 21-22 school year, it's $3.1 million, a decrease of $1.6 million. Our total debt, we always put that on there, even though it's not part of the new tax levy. $8.4 million, a decrease of $3,600. And our total budget is $150 million, which is a decrease of $5 million over the prior year, a decrease of 3.25%. These are shortened numbers that come from the larger document that you saw at the front desk there. What does this mean for Jackson taxpayers? The total budget is down 3.25%, as I said. That's a 0.0219 cent increase to the school tax rate. For 2021, the proposed school tax rate is 1.412 per 100 of assessed home value. For a home, the average home in Jackson is assessed at $329,181. We get that number from the township tax assessor. So if your home is at that value, we take the $329 of that number and multiply it by 1.412, and you know what it's going to be. But we did the math for you. It's a $72 increase for this year. And I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Permilli.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. So this is a slide that I had in last month as well, just to remind you what can you do to help with this S2 situation that the district has been in for a while. I did want to point out that we did send a letter to the governor. I invited him to come visit. I haven't heard back yet. We have worked with the District 12 lawmakers. They have put out a press release about the inequalities of the S2 bill to some districts, particularly districts like Jackson and surrounding districts like Toms River and Brick. Both Ms. Richardson and I had presented testimony at the Public Senate budget hearing meeting. We also had submitted what we presented publicly there in writing to them as well. And we ask that our parents continue to help to support us. We put out a media blitz a little while ago. Ms. Irwin worked on that with the PTN presidents, and we will continue to keep that information on our district website for people to help advocate for us. This evening on the board agenda, there is actually a resolution, again, asking for the board to support that to, again, demonstrate that we feel that there's inequities in the S2 formula for our district. So these are all things that we're trying to do to, again, try and block any additional state aid cuts that we get. So in closing for the presentation tonight, moving forward, the district will continue to review and research every cost-saving opportunity we can. We do that all year long, so that we don't have to get to a place where we're slashing significant amounts of staff or program, including applying for grants. Tonight you heard about the ARC grant, but there are many, many more grants. The ESIP grant that I mentioned tonight, and I could go on. There are many that our teachers have applied for, and we'll continue to look at those grants so that we can support and uphold the mission statement for our students, our number one priority, our students. So with that, are there any questions from the board?
Yes. Yes. I'll wait to be recognized.
Go ahead, Mr. Acevedo.
Madam President, can I ask a question? I'm concerned about two things, a lot of things, but two things in particular. First of all, class size. Too often we save money, or say we save money, by adding one more child into the classroom. But what we're doing is costing the district more money. Because what happens is that the overcrowded classroom is less efficient. So I want to highlight my concern, which I'm sure is the same for all the board members and yours, that we watch over this drip, drip rise in numbers in classrooms, because that means that we're wasting our money, okay? The other one is professional development. Teachers are human beings, okay? When time passes, the information they learned years ago changes, and they don't change because of that. That's just the way it is. So we have to make sure that we provide them the things they need most and they wish to have is facilities, programs, exposure to the latest technology, the latest behavioral training for teachers in classrooms where the children need that expertise. I want to make sure that we find a way to recoup that effort that we've done through the years of having professional development for teachers. Because very often it's like an overcrowded classroom. A classroom with a teacher who has not upgraded their knowledge or their skills, it's all money being used wrong. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Is basically we got to watch that.
Yep, I understand.
Saying, oh, we're saving money. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not saving money because the classroom is more crowded. And because the teachers aren't getting, oh, we're not. A less professional teacher is not as efficient, as good as they are on their own, especially since they spend a few $1,000s of their own money to supply, make sure that their classroom is up to par. You know, that's a reality we got to live with. But I'm just saying that. Please don't save money in the wrong places and think we're saving money.
I believe I tried to demonstrate that we're not doing that. We prioritize staff in the classroom so that we do not have large class sizes. We monitor that all year long, all summer long. We constantly watch. Our team looks at those numbers on a weekly basis to ensure that we're trying to keep the class sizes down the best that we can. We were creative in this budget planning by using district Title I funds to fund teachers. Instead of having to slash teachers, we are using our title funds to help with those things and also help with professional development. Pardon the expression, kind of preaching to the choir, I absolutely agree with you. That's why we're here. And we have wonderful teachers who have learned wonderful things this year and have had to pivot multiple times and really very quickly learn some different ways of teaching. And I know that they're going to carry those things into the next school year, all the learnings that they've had from this year. So I do believe we are keeping a watchful eye on all of that. So thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Herman.
You know, maybe we should be limiting services more than professional development, meaning save money on services instead of saving money on professional development.
Could you be specific on what you mean?
Yeah, meaning if we only have a limited amount of title money in the budget, or money that we're spending for professional development, is it in the best impact, strongest impact for the students to cut professional development and leave services intact?
Could you clarify what kinds of service, OT services, PT services, what kind of services are you referring to?
I mean, in general, like pull-out services, is there any way we could limit that instead of limiting professional development? Like Gus is saying, professional development is so important.
There's services that are required in a student's IEP, if they're a special education student, that we have to provide.
Meaning, are there any services that we're not required to provide by law, but we do anyway?
Any services that we provide to students is because there's a need.
They're all mandated, required by law?
No, because there might be a need for that service. I need a specific example. OT, PT are driven by IEP process and IEPs, those services. Any other services that I can think of is maybe a service for a student who needs special hearing translation. Those are all required services through an IEP. I don't think there's anything that we could cut that would not be required.
Are they required by law, or they're required
Yes.
to educate a child?
They are required by law, sir.
By law.
And an individual educational plan, special education.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One last thing, it's rhetorical but real, pragmatic also. We lose, a school district becomes poor or bad one student at a time. One student at a time. Before we know it, we have a number that we can't deal with because it's going to affect the product. We have to worry about that kid. Also, we become better by percentages. We suddenly, this school did much better, this team did much better, This classroom did much better because we had something to do with it. It's got to be purposeful teaching, purposeful board member belonging or behavior. And I'm just saying, budgets are sticky things because we always think it's about money. And we become bean counters, and we forget that we lose the school district one student at a time, and we, by not having ideas, which we have, we don't become great. And I keep, every now and then I look at to see where our ranking is, and then I compare it to school districts I know. I say, we're off by a point or two because of attendance, or college attendance, or SAT, by points, by minuscule, we have to do something about that. 'Cause I'm kind of like arrogant about Jackson, and I think by working a little harder here and there, we can be at the top instead of in the middle.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
We're striving to be, we always strive to be better. We're never going to stay just status quo. We need to always push ourselves to be better. Absolutely. This has been a difficult year, obviously, but we have still done excellent things and our students have grown. And for me, this has never been about just money. I'm in education because I care about making a difference in the lives of children. So absolutely agree with you. Anybody else?
Is it possible to take the 5-year curriculum review and stretch it to 6 or 7 years to save some money there?
So actually, we have revised the 5-year curriculum cycle. You see them shaking their head over there. We've had this conversation and revised it to be more budget-friendly to get through the most critical cut years, which is this year and the next year. So we did expand it so that it would make more sense, which is why you see just one adoption that's really necessary to buy resources for. Some of the other adoptions are more of a curriculum review or update and not a purchasing of major resources. So that's why they've, Ms. Licitra and Mr. Atante had tweaked. I want to say it was last year we did it, correct? Yeah, last year. So yes, good point. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Vera, that concludes my superintendent's report. Rather long tonight, but it concludes it.
These budgets are works in progress.
I need a motion to open public forum on the 2021 and 2022 budget only. We will need another,
I make that motion.
we will hold another public forum
Second.
during the meeting for other questions. This public forum will be for questions on the budget only. And please sign in and state your name and whether or not you are a Jackson resident. Each person is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. No person may speak more than once on a topic until all others have been heard.
Good evening. My name is Maria Froyo. I am a Jackson resident. And I did have a quick question about some of the expansion programs, specifically the preschool programs, and that they'll be expanding to full-time. Did I hear that correctly? Is that the preschool disabled program?
It's all of our preschool programs are full-time
So,
for next year.
Next year. So right now, what are the hours?
They're different for each school based on the, next year they will be based on the school's start times. What we've done is moved more preschool programs into each of the elementary schools. One of the pieces of feedback we received from our community is they would prefer to have the preschool students begin on the same time as the elementary students, as they might have an elementary child in that same school. So we are aligning the preschool times for each of the schools based on where they're held. So Rosenauer Preschool would now begin at the same time that the Rosenauer Elementary School starts.
My only concern, and I don't mean to pick on the preschools at all, they are very important, but if we're concerned about our budget restraints, why are we expanding those types of classrooms? In my experience, those classrooms normally have one lead teacher, another special education teacher, at least 4 paraprofessionals, OT services, speech therapy services, all kinds of services. And I'm not saying that they're not needed or warranted. I'm just saying, where are we going to, we're really pressed for finding funds. Why are we expanding that now unless the state is going to pay for that?
Yes, so we are not adding any additional staff. We are moving things around, and we will not need to hire any additional staff to make this a full-time program. So we're eliminating the part-time program. So whereas an AM and PM, it's still the same amount of teachers. We're just dissolving an AM PM to be a full day.
Okay.
This is also partly a tuition-based program, so we receive money for tuition from our general education students that helps to offset the preschool program. And finally, we have tweaked it because we have most recently applied for a preschool grant, and we did not receive the grant, but we did receive feedback about why, and we're trying to align ourselves because a new preschool grant is going to open up in June, and we want to apply to be able to get it. So this helps set us up for that.
Okay. I am one of the parents that are calling the Senate Education Committees on a weekly basis to have them review our budget concerns so that they're looking at our needs, and that's all I can do, is keep calling the offices and asking them not to cut our funds. So it's not like I'm not trying to call them every week and keep putting pressure on where I can. So thank you for that clarification.
And thank you for your help.
Hi, Megan Gardella. Did I have to say my address? Anyway, I wanted to know what is the plan. Obviously, the budget's in place, and there's aid in lieu that's going to impact Jackson from now until infinity. What is the plan moving forward to address aid in lieu? I feel like it kind of got glossed over. I heard a board member when it was discussed to say, we'll discuss that another time. I know you guys have closed meetings regarding that, and I know the state also has their, what's the word I'm looking for, their regulation is, because I spoke to the person up there, the director of transportation for the state, and I know that these are coming down from the state on how much a district has to pay in aid in lieu, but I would assume that we're talking with other local districts to address years coming, and I was just curious if I'm too soon on asking, because I feel like it wasn't really discussed how we're going to address it moving forward, or if you have talked about ways to not spend $1 million and maybe more next year. Because I believe that the rate in which you're going to be spending aid in lieu is probably, even though I know there's math into it and people are researching our census, it's probably a lot more than what you think. So I'm just curious what the board members or administration has in store for that.
Hi, Ms. Gardella.
Hey.
So I'm sorry, it's really off the sound tonight. So
Okay.
I think what you're asking is, what are we doing proactively moving
Yes.
forward about
Aid in lieu. Aid in lieu costs us a lot of money.
We're hoping to bus everybody next year.
And aid in lieu also was kind of, in my opinion, as a public member participating, swept under, and I was just curious how we're discussing aid in lieu and where it's going or what the plan is. I mean, I think it's amazing that we're reaching out to people, I wasn't close enough, to people regarding S2 funding and all these other things. I was just curious what the committee is doing to reach out to the people that, make all these rules and regulations for us all to follow regarding aid in lieu, because it impacts our community more than I think we're, making it out to seem. Like, I get all the other things that S2 funding is taking away, but that's going to make us a whole new district.
Okay, so I thought I saw 2 board members have comments. Does somebody have a comment at the end of the table? Mr. Herman, was that you?
Yes, thank you. First of all, everyone that's receiving aid in lieu is your community. We're all together. We're all Jacksonites, and we are all your community. Number one. Number two is, as a district, I think I can speak for everybody. We hope the goal is to give $0 in aid in lieu and have every child bused. Obviously, that's not always possible, but that's always our goal. So unfortunately, we're saddled with it, but not necessarily is that by design. We do hope to give everybody busing.
Okay, then.
Was there anyone else? Did I see another comment down at the board? Okay.
I will
Okay,
say at
thank
the I have to hold my button down. I will say at the Transportation Committee meeting that we did discuss ways that Mrs. Richardson is working to creatively and proactively try to figure it out, because it is a real concern, and they have budgeted, and they're budgeting off of the numbers that they currently have. And you can correct me at any point in time if I'm wrong. It's only my second meeting, and I wasn't really allowed to talk much at the last one. I was pleased coming onto the board and sitting in the first transportation meeting to hear what they are doing as a district to look proactively, working collaboratively with other local districts to see how they're managing it, how they're handling it. Maybe Mrs. Richardson, you can speak to that a little bit more?
We've been on top of this for a few years now because, like I said, I think in the last board meeting, that we used to pay quite a little bit for this number, but now it's grown tremendously. I think it's $1.3 million that I have in the budget for next year. So there aren't a lot of options because it's a state law that we have to do this. What happened in Lakewood is that Lakewood, and I'm not sure where it came from, but they created another bus program. It's called the LSTA. And that took care of the problem in Lakewood, because I believe there are over 40,000 non-public students in Lakewood. And the LSTA takes care of all of them, and that was a state program that funded it directly. That is not the case here in Jackson. I hear rumors that it may expand to Jackson at one time, but at this date, it hasn't happened. So what we do here is we keep an eye on it, how much we can offer transportation to keep the costs down, and then how much we have to pay out. We just keep an eye on it, and we budget for it, because there's no other option. It is the law.
And I understand that. I just wondered, if it was another thing that we were really actively looking at. I feel like we didn't talk about it, or at least in the public realm, it wasn't talked about too much, and we talk about concerns for smaller class sizes, lack of professional development, and all of these cuts in every area. That's $1,300,000. Do you know what I'm saying? That are going out, and I get it. Like, I feel like there's probably, people that feel that they need that money to transport their child, and I realize it's a state law, and I get all that, but that doesn't mean that, every law is meant to not have people question it.
Yeah.
And as a district, I feel that there's people that would question it if we knew what to question, just like we sent emails out for S2 funding and everything else, People, I'm not trying to separate communities, but there are, everybody wants what they want, and everybody wants everything to be perfect and work well for them and be excellent for them. And we also have to take into consideration that you take from one to give to the other, and is there not an easier way, or a way that is maybe, how can we voice our opinion? Listen, I emailed the director of transportation, and she emailed me back. And then I emailed her again, and I never heard anything, but I kind of said some things. So, I just feel like that is something that is going to impact our budget more than a curriculum. That's a lot of money.
We do include it in all of our discussions with the legislature as we speak to them. We do include that fact.
I mean, even if they gave ideas, you know what I'm saying, or if there's a mandate for that state program to help us out. I mean, it shouldn't be that you have to go into, it shouldn't be the failure model that always exists in education, right? Where you got to fail to get, you know, and that's this, there's people that will say, hey, we don't want it to fail here, so we can get, we want to be able to give and get and be merry and live, you know, in a kumbaya way. So, you know, I was just curious.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else come forward, I make a motion to close public forum on budget only.
Second.
Standing committee reports. The county is meeting on May 26th at 7 p.m. The parent group liaison, Mr. Bernetsky.
I got it.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm going to have to defer to the superintendent on that one. I unfortunately missed that meeting.
Yes, I believe we met 2 weeks ago with the PTN President's Council. Ms. LaCitra, Mr. Rattante, and I met, and we discussed end-of-year activities, focusing in on our key grades of transition, our 5th graders, our 8th graders, and our seniors. And we talked about the year, and I thanked everybody for their hard work and their innovation on fundraising and helping support our staff and our students. And then that was the last meeting for the year, so we'll pick up again in the fall.
Special education, Mr. Herman.
We did not have any meetings this month. Thank you.
Scholarship.
I'll take this. Okay, the scholarship committee met with Mr. Holtz last week. We went over the sponsors, we went over the ad books, and we also were told that we will be going virtually on June 2nd, okay, with the presentation of scholarships. Right now, we're a little bit behind last year as far as sponsors are concerned, okay, but I think by the end of the day, we'll be pretty close to the money we gave out last year. That's it.
Buildings and grounds. Buildings and grounds, Mr. Sargent.
Mr. Walsh. Mr. Walsh, would you like to comment on that?
As you can see, the ISIP program is starting to pay some dividends. I'd like to thank Mr. Ostroff for that. Okay, it looks like our lighting systems are all done. They've all been changed over into LEDs in all the schools. Hopefully that'll pay dividends. Our solar PPA, they're up on all buildings. It's still in the process though. They're not finished. Two schools are near completion. Now the ground solar that is not at Liberty, that was put on 2 roofs, correct? It will be. Okay, those are the ones that still haven't been completed yet. Okay, all right. We're in the process of constructing charging stations for 2 electric garbage trucks and probably, hopefully, buses in the future as far as that's concerned. And we have some construction projects going over in transportation, all right, to work on some of the old systems in the old transportation system. That's it.
Budget and Finance, Mr. Walsh.
You just seen it.
Transportation, Mr. Walsh.
Okay, we had, actually, this had come up with a discussion. There was a transportation subcommittee meeting, and we discussed in lieu some of the problems we have with transportation, the future leader of transportation. Right now, we have a temporary and Mr. Ostroff, who's double dipping here, multiple hats. And so a lot of things were discussed, and there's a lot of things in the process as far as transportation is concerned. The bright spot is the new transportation hub is one step away from getting a CO and totally finished. That's it.
Negotiations, JTAA, Mr. Sargent.
We have a meeting next month, I believe it is, and also NCS and the Teamsters, we have meetings upcoming as well. Thank you.
Negotiations, non-certified supervisors. I need a motion. I need a motion of policy, second reading.
Before we motion that, can we have a little discussion? I do have a few questions about policies. What's that? Oh, okay. Basically, three questions I have here. Oh, we got a motion first and then have this discussion? I'll make a motion. Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion.
All right. With the board removal, okay, that new policy, the changes that have been made, why did they change it from 72 hours to 48 hours for the notice? Is there something that changed?
Which policy number, Mr. Walsh?
Oh, I should have wrote down the policy numbers. It's board member removal.
Give me a second. It's not more, are they? Oh, here it is. Got it.
Was there anything that changed?
No, that's not in the statute. I guess they felt that giving 72 hours notice was too much time. It's not set forth in the statute.
Right, so there's no particular
you
reason
technically have
for that
discretion
change.
to go back to the old number or take Strauss Esme's adopted change.
Okay.
But it's not in the statute or the regulation.
All right, I thought
Yeah.
something significantly had changed.
No.
Okay, the next one is the facility use.
The only thing that changed, just to finish that point, is that the law's been clarified to say when they talk about 3 consecutive meetings, the law doesn't distinguish between special meetings and regular meetings. It's any meetings of the board that if you miss 3 of them without good cause, you could be subject to removal. And that's really the crux of the change here.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the facility use, there is a numbered system which classifies them. My question is, does 1 take priority over 2, 2 take priority over 3? Is that a hierarchy?
Ms. Richardson can answer that, I believe.
Yeah, I don't have the document in front of me, but I do know there's different categories on that where it says, you know, like a state, like Jackson Rec wants to use the facility. If we can do it without cost, it's no cost to them. Those other people in that category fall into that. And then the ones that are higher up, they do have to pay for the facility.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it is
It was a
hierarchy, all right.
policy that was set by the board many years ago, and we continue to improve on it.
Okay, that's fine. The third one, forget it, that was answered. I'm done.
I need a motion for approval of policy reading.
I think we already moved them. I think it's just, yeah.
Oh,
just-
roll
just
call.
to
We're ready
roll
for the
call.
vote on that. I didn't hear her say do roll call, I'm sorry. Mr. Spaltoff? Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
No.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need a motion for approval of regulations adoption.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need a motion for approval of policy regulations abolished.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call. Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need a motion for approval of the minutes, the closed session meeting March 17, 2021, and the official board meeting March 17, 2021, committee of the whole business meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Abstain from closed session, yes to committee of the whole.
Mr. Herman?
Abstain.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need a motion for approval of the bill list.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need approval of motion for approval of the treasurer's and board secretary's reports.
Motion.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo? Yes. Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. I need a motion to open second public forum on any topics pertaining to the Board of Education.
Motion.
Second.
Please sign in and state your name and whether or not you are a Jackson resident. Each person is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. No person may speak more than once on a topic until all others have been heard.
Good evening. Megan Gardella. So I have something written out. I'm not sure I'm going to go with it or not. Last month, I brought up my feeling that the Board of Education and administrators, following the New Jersey Department of Health or Ocean County Department of Health recommendations, are excessively quarantining our students. It's delaying full-time instruction, and there's a real concern that we're not even discussing September and what's going to transpire for our youth. You know, parents are concerned about, are these kids going to come back to half-time instruction, shields on their desks, masks on their face while they're sitting in their small spaces. So anyway, someone said, well, you got to bring that up with the Department of Health. So what did I do? I attended the Ocean County Department of Health public meeting. It was during spring break on April 7th. I was probably the first and only public participant. At least, I look back in the agendas because I was a little nervous, at least a year and a half. None of the board members on this panel here have ever attended in a meeting. Your name was not there. And what they told me was really interesting, and I don't mean to do this, but I have to call everybody's bluff who is telling us that we have to follow these rules and regulations. We actually don't. They told me that a school district can do as they choose in interpreting recommendations despite being in orange. They told me to look at Lakewood, which I don't necessarily want to follow in all of the footsteps of Lakewood, but they do have students back in the classroom. We're a year and change into a pandemic. Life's not going to get any different. You know, they told me that basically the teacher union, which I was surprised to hear, has a deal from the state level saying that they're not going to return to the classroom full-time until September, which you do see in districts up north if you're paying attention. You know, in the end, they told me that until the governor lifts an executive order, that at least in Ocean County, the Department of Health cannot tell districts in their county what to change or decide. They're not going to enforce in terms of the recommendations. However, they are just recommendations. So what bothers me is that the Board of Education has blatantly let the administration on that recommendation list allow sporting events while we are in the orange risk level. And it bothers me because I'm a supporter. Listen, I want my kid at basketball. Like, I'm all for all of this. My problem is when we start to draw lines in the sand and say, well, parents and administrators in school buildings and kids on athletic scholarships, we want them to continue to play sports and participate in all of those things. But yet, I mean, we want prom and graduation. We have half-time learning instruction with no plan that I've heard of in the public for full-time transition. You know, it's heard in the clouds that it's going to be back to normal in September, but I haven't heard it. I haven't read it. That's probably where I would see it more, right? I would read it, and then I would know that that's actually happening. Keeping kids out when they're, like, telling this poor lady she's got to stay out of work because I stood next to her for 3 minutes, is excessively quarantining somebody. It says on there that there are hardships that could be determined, and we have gone a year and change having our kids sit in front of computers, and yes, there are parents that want that, but for those that do not, it's continuing. There's no rule and regulation that I was told by these department people, which I have the guy's email, I'll send it to you all, maybe you want to be in touch with him too, that says that it's a recommendation. And, you know, I'm not trying to be too sarcastic, but it's recommended that we all don't smoke, right? This is a recommendation. So I'm not saying that I want to say, hey, COVID-19 doesn't happen and there's nothing that's going to keep us safe, but I will say that when things are excessive, you guys are educated individuals who are appointed and elected to be up here to make decisions for students, not anybody else, no special interests, not what you're into for the day, not why you decided to get up here, whether that's, you know, I'm not going to list out because I'm going to try and save face here, but there are many special interests that I feel are up on this stage, and no one, not one person in public or in writing has stood up and said, enough interpreting recommendations as the Bible of law and order for our kids in Jackson. Where are your putting students first? I just feel that when I attended this meeting, I was actually in shock. I left there, I was speechless. I didn't expect to hear what I heard. Everybody there was supportive. People were shaking their heads. So I told them my daughter got quarantined for, you know, possibly having someone walk by her for 30 seconds or in a room for more than 12 minutes rather than 15. And I could argue all these points, but in the end, these are just recommendations. The public's gonna remember, right? They're gonna remember the slow transition back into the classroom. They're gonna remember who said, hey, let's look at these guidelines and do what's best for our students, they're going to remember this people who spoke out on special interests and not the matters that are affecting our kids today. They're going to look to pay attention. And, I got to get myself back on track, so excuse me a second. I feel, and I'm new to this, believe me, I started blabbing my mouth in November, but all I feel like is it's constant blaming, finger pointing, go to this one, it's that person's issue. You guys represent Jackson community. If the Jackson community, what's best for Jackson community is to have some full-time education or a plan for that to be into place, to talk about these things so people aren't wondering. I don't have a ton of parents here supporting me, and I get it. Everybody is very busy. Some people think it's lost and wasted breath, and I actually, to some degree, agree with them. We are gonna remember when our kids had to sit with desk shields and face masks at 6 feet apart with their masks on in the outdoors and the fresh air with no plan to make this different. And our only solution or possible bone to the parents is that we're going to offer them a summer program that not everybody's going to take, because some people are burnt out from doing this all year for, a year and change. And I just feel that you guys are the leaders. You're appointed and elected and put into these positions to be leaders. You're there, you're supposed to be educating yourselves on what is the best practice for our kids. I don't need to sit here and tell you and bring to you factual information. You know it and you read it. The thing is that these were recommendations, and you have been allowing our district to function as those are the only recommendations that we have in place. I get people are afraid to make mistakes. What if I make the mistake that costs someone their lives? You have, as a district, allowed your staff 2 opportunities to be vaccinated. So those adults who are nervous in that regard at this point in the school year have had their opportunity to make themselves safe. So now my question is, you've done all that you should do, and probably above and beyond. Now, as the parents, are we going to hear full-time instruction is coming? Hey, maybe for the last 6 weeks of June, just to check, 6 weeks is not in June, of the school year, to check out how that's going to roll. If they're still going to be concerned during the lunch periods, I know that, maybe some of that money could have been used for outdoor dining spaces. How long are the excuses going to continue on? I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop. But, I just feel like, we count on you guys. And I can't imagine the response is gonna be, oh, November 5th, right, it'll all change.
May I comment?
I'll take comments, sure.
I think we've been very generous with the clock, and you are the only person who got up. You deserve to take what other people didn't use. However, not a single person, not a board member, not a citizen, not a parent, not a non-parent, ever wished this pandemic to happen. This scattered everybody in different directions until they couraged up and decided to do something about it. This district has been considering what to do regarding full-time school attendance in person since the first day this pandemic curtailed our freedoms, like people mentioned. If you think that it's not a priority thought for us to keep our kids educated in a classroom with their peers so they can learn not only book learning, but social learning, you haven't been to these meetings. How many meetings have you been to? Every meeting, right?
I've come to the meetings, and I'm not suggesting that you're not putting kids first.
No,
I'm saying, where is the plan,
I understand
Mr.
that.
Acevedo?
But the thing is, you made a statement which if we keep quiet about it, it justifies it. Your frustration is our frustration. Your right to speak is the same as our right to speak, because we are, like you, a citizen, a resident of this town. We want the best for these schools. However, whose child are we going to sacrifice? What student will get sick or die? And as a former coach, you know what happens to a student who loses his capacity, his lung capacity to breathe? If he ever expected to be a runner, a soccer player, a baseball player, a football player, a weightlifter, a wrestler, that career is shot. That career is shot. Just recovering and losing your breath, your lung capacity. We are trying to be sensible and wait this thing out, but also proactively. We are not trying to get by and allow things to pass without our finger being in the dike. We're trying to keep something from falling apart, which is this school district. But you go to another town next door, they're going through the same thing. You go 3 school districts down, the same thing, with a parent like you coming up and asking the same questions. However, I would ask you politely, respectfully, and with all due respect, understand that we care enough to stay up at night to worry about our children. My kids went to the school district. I'm the first graduate of this high school. I'm an old man. I'm as old as the paint and the hinges that are falling down. But the thing is this school district is manned and womaned by people who care. And we're supposed to put up with people making statements and writing statements because that's what we got elected for. However, do not go out of here thinking that these board members and administration don't want to open the schools as quickly as possible, and we're not following any other school district. We learn from them. We are the Jackson School District. We have to worry about our own money, our own debts, our own teachers, our own students. Because in the final analysis, we're responsible. In locus parentis, we are these kids' parents. We are these kids' parents. Man, the term is a legal term.
Harry, you got it.
Go to the microphone, please. Go to the microphone. Go to the parent. Go to the microphone, please. Speak at the microphone.
Ma'am, you're out of order.
If I may, in locus parentis means in the place of a parent. It's the law. So we have things that we have to do that are protected by law.
I respectfully disagree.
This is not a debate back and forth, so we...
Everybody has
Hang
to
on a
be-
second. Hang on a second.
Hello. Everybody has to be respectful, and this is not, confrontational. It's about respect.
My name is Maria Froyo. I spoke before. I'm a Jackson resident. With all due respect, I concur with this other parent because I got the same exact answer that she got. You want us to be proactive? We are. We come to meetings. I call all the senators, my congressmen, and I spoke to Senator, the education chairwoman, her office, Chairwoman Ruiz, and she told me the same exact thing. This is just a never-ending circle of blame. I hear what you're saying. The Board of Ed says we have to listen to our bosses, the CDC, and the health, and the governor, and everything else. But when I spoke to Chairwoman Ruiz's office, she said, no, this is not our office telling the Board of Ed what to do, how to open or not open. She laid the blame right at the superintendent's feet. She said, it's not up to this office, it's up to the superintendent's office. The governor left it up to the superintendents to decide how, when they were going to open, 5 days, 2 days, hybrid, whatever they wanted to do. As far as parental rights go, I never signed a waiver giving up my parental right. My daughter is my child, my daughter. And I am telling you tonight that that will never change. I don't need you to parent my daughter. I can do that. That's my God-given right. And no one, not the governor, not the Board of Education, not the CDC, no one is going to take that right away from me. I understand you're doing your best, but the time has come for us to move forward. We've never done this before to our children. We have never, this is a social experiment that I did not give my consent for you to force my child to go through this. Wearing a mask all day, going to school for a shortened day, or having lunch or no lunch, or living life inside of an igloo. I never gave my consent to that. You cannot provide me, no one can provide me with proof that mask wearing will not harm my child in the long term. Quite the opposite is true. And they're not at risk of dying from COVID. It's not your job to keep everyone safe from having a cold. It's your job to educate, okay? We know a lot more now than we did last year. And we should show what you know, and we should move forward. Kids are not dying from COVID. So I don't want to continue with this, my child being in a social program to almost be trained to be like a drone of some sort. That's not what I want. We're not going to know the ramifications of what we've done to this generation for quite some time, but we do have other evidence that is coming out day after day after day, that masks don't work, that kids are not dying from COVID, so why do we keep doing the same thing? The frustration is that people that I don't know, that I did not elect, that I can't even go to, you try to call an office and they give you the runaround. This permanent medical class, they're abusing our kids. And they're stripping away their humanity. And they're taking something away from them that they're never going to get back. If last year I saw somebody forcing a child to learn, or eat lunch and wear a mask all day long, be in like an igloo type of environment, I would call the police on them. And I would keep calling until the police came, because I would think that's child abuse. Let's use common sense, since we're all new to this, right? If you go to the doctor and you get a bad diagnosis, God forbid, the doctor says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Froyo, you have cancer." I'm not going to take that at face value. I may get a second and third opinion. We can't just take one person's opinion.
Hi, it's been 5 minutes, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, the 5 minute.
Oh, I'm not going to, believe me, I didn't even think I was going to pop up until one of the board members had stated something that I really felt deeply was wrong, especially about Megan. My name's Katie Bello. I've been in Jackson School District for 11 years now. I'm a transplant from Maryland, and then before that, Philadelphia. I'm a nurse, and I just wanted to hit you with some facts, just real quick. But first of all, before I even do that, I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank the teachers. My boys go to school here. Their virtual learning was really done well, I feel like. So thank any teacher that's here, thank you very much. The prom, I'm glad that you touched on that. My son's a senior. Honestly, he doesn't even really care, but for the seniors that do, I really hope that we can pull something together for them. I understand that the timeline is going to be difficult, but that's what I feel like Jackson does best. We pull stuff together, we do it, we make it right. These kids lost their junior prom last year, so I really hope that we're able to do that. Just circling back for a second, like I said, I'm a nurse. When the pandemic hit, I actually lost my job. I'm one of the few that lost my job because I work in the operating room. I get it. I'm scared too. okay? I don't want to make the wrong decision either. But since I lost my job, I did what, I felt like a nurse should do, and I went to Newark, and I worked on a COVID floor. These people were old. They had a lot of comorbidities, and I'm scared actually for my job even right now. Speaking out as a nurse, I feel like we can't even really do that. We can't talk about what the real facts are, right? Children, Mr. Acid, how do you say your name? I'm sorry, I don't even... The gentleman, children are not dying from this, thank God. They're not dying from this. More children have died from suicide. I can tell you that, okay? So to say that, a parent doesn't care about an actual child dying from COVID-19, that was out of order, I feel like. So that's what made me jump up. Children are not dying from this, thank God. I also actually administer the vaccine and do testing because I'm trying to do my part. I feel like we all just need to do our part to move forward and do it in a positive way. We don't have to point fingers. I'm very grateful for this school district. Like I said, 4 of my kids are here, and that's really, I didn't want to take 5 minutes, but I just wanted to kind of correct you. Children are not dying from this disease. We need to do better for them.
Seeing no one else come forward, I need a motion to close public forum on any topic.
Motion.
By acclamation.
Motion to move finance.
Motion.
Discussion?
Yes. So regarding the budget, I believe it's one of the things in finance that we're going to vote on. Ms. Formelli described it as a perfect storm this year that we have to cut. We have significant cuts coming to us, and a lot of things are hitting us at the same time that's causing us to squeeze our budget for this year. But I could argue just the opposite. I'm going to argue that we're in the middle of the eye of the storm. Next year, we'll have exhausted our ESSER funds, which we're relying on this year, about $3.5 million. We're going to have an additional, like Ms. Gardella said, I believe $1.3 million in the budget. I think everyone who knows its numbers, it's going to be well over $2 million in aid and lieu. It's probably going to be probably going to have about 3,000 private school kids next year. About 600 will get bused, so that's going to be about 2.4 million in the beginning of the year, simple math. This year we're cutting 37 positions. We can't keep cutting positions. Class sizes are going to get out of control. We're deferring Tier 1 programs for future years because, again, it's a perfect storm, of course you defer. But we're going to have an additional cut of $4.5 million from the S2 cuts. We're not this is not a perfect storm. This is the beginning of a much larger storm brewing for the future. If we vote for this budget and we pass it, next year we're going to be sitting here over $10 million in the red that we're going to have to come up with. We can't cut teachers. We can't cut therapy. We can't cut essential services that we have to offer. This is what we're going to set ourselves up for if we were to go with this.
You finished?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Number 6, I have a question, Michelle. Did we have to go out to bid for this? Or we don't have to go out for a bid?
Which question? Which?
Number 6, the uniforms.
Let me just see which one.
It's below the bid threshold. Say about 6 under finance, Ms. Richardson.
It is a renewal, so we went out to bid before this time. We were able to renew it for this year. If you read in your note, it says this is the first renewal of the Facilities and Transportation Department uniform bid, which happened on March 11th, 2020.
Yeah, so they put in a bid last year, we don't have to do bids every year?
You don't. We put in there, like for our auditor and different purchases that we make, we put in there that there can be a renewal.
Okay.
It's also less than the bid threshold.
I need a roll call.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. We're still in discussion with finance, correct? I'd like to say that I know how hard this district has worked for this budget. This administration has worked tirelessly for it. And for that, I'm going to owe Ms. Primelli an apology because I did inform her that I would be supporting this budget. However, there are a couple areas that are very, very large in this budget that I don't see. Redistricting, we've talked about in nauseam for years. Years and years we've talked about it, and still we haven't made a single motion for redistricting. And I believe that that could save a lot of money. Also, with transportation, there are just so many areas in transportation that we can improve. Even when you saw the budget presentation, transportation was listed last. It probably should be listed first because if we can't get our students to school, we don't have a school. We've had difficulty in hiring proper leadership for transportation. So having said that in both of those items, I would say that this budget, although the district, again, has worked very, very hard on it, I would say that I'm probably going to vote no. Thank you. Anybody else?
All budgets are partly a guesstimate, but we must project needed expenses and what we'll pay for them and where we're going to get the money for it. And planning allows us to keep a regulated and organized and balanced school district. I have seen school districts that have fallen apart, and a lot of them are suffering right now. Some of them are not dealing with it very well, and they're not going to ever make up for it. We're trying to hold the line and deal with the cuts and have to deal with reality. My reality is I have to vote for the budget. It's not what I'd like to do, it's what I have to do.
Michelle, I have another question for you. In number 16, okay, the transfer amount is 19 cents and 20 cents. Is that on the dollar?
Is that finance number 19 with the PJM?
16.
16.
Oh, 16.
Number
Okay.
16,
I'm
it's
sorry.
account adjustments for benefits that, for FICA benefits that needed to get readjusted.
Yes.
It's literally what it
It's
says.
literally cents that we have to make sure we are in compliance.
Okay.
An accounting function.
Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
No on 4, yes on everything else.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes on all.
Mr. Burnetsky?
Yes on all.
Mr. Sargent?
No on numbers 4 and 12, yes on everything else.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. Motion to move facilities.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes.
Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. Motion to move programs.
Motion. Second.
Discussion?
I have one question. Number 4, the vape video, is that up anywhere so I could take a look at it?
Programs number 4?
Oh, maybe I have the wrong one. No.
Yeah, I think so.
I have the wrong 4. It was under students, is the vape video. I'll bring it up under
Mr.
students.
Barrett, just a reminder that under students, we have an addition from Mr. Zimmer, okay?
Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes.
Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes.
Okay, I have an additional item, number 10, under students. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby affirms the administration's finding that due to lack of evidence, HIB case number MS-21-1 heard during this evening's executive session is deemed to be unfounded, and be it further resolved that Board Counsel should provide the parents with a written decision on behalf of the Board and notification of their right to appeal to the Commissioner of Education pursuant to Board Policy 5512.
Motion to move students.
Motion. Second.
Discussion?
This is the one with the vape, number 4. Is there anywhere we could find that?
Yeah, I'll see if we can get I'm sure we can find it, and I'll share it with the whole board.
Okay.
Roll call.
Oh, one other question. This is number 9. We have some students are they being moved from one school to another? They're special ed students. Are they being moved, or are they being moved out of our district into other schools?
These are already out-of-district students that their placement is being changed to another out-of-district based on the IEP team's recommendation.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Yes.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes.
Mr. Brunetsky?
Yes.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. Motion to move personnel.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spaltoff?
Abstain from 3D and yes to everything else.
Mr. Herman?
Yes.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes.
Mr. Brunetsky?
Abstain on anything transportation related, yes to everything else.
Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rivera?
Yes. Now time for the board comments. Mr. Sargent?
Yes, I'd just like to say that for those of you who watch Dr. Fauci, he's a jerk, I believe, and I'm not going to listen to him. Or anyone like him. Or anyone that's invested in masks, like Dr. Fauci. I believe that the core of this budget is solid. But there are things in this budget that need to be addressed. That's why I voted no. I will continue to vote no on many items as I sit here, as I have in the past, because my conscience won't let me just vote yes because I'm sitting up here. I got voted here for a reason. Having said that, drive safely.
Mr. Spaltoff?
I just want to congratulate Switlick School on the Green Ribbon Schools. having applied for that myself for my school and losing to Switlick, I know the work that went into it, and I have yet to see what they're doing at Switlick to justify it, but it must be pretty amazing, because I know what I did at my school, and I thought it was pretty solid, and we had a good chance. But if I'm going to lose to anybody, I'm glad that I lost to my kids' district. So, congratulations to Switlick.
Mr. Herman?
In the interest of time, have a good night.
Mr. Acevedo?
Yes. I served on the mental health board where one of our hardest things was we had to develop clinics against suicide that was initiated by the ideation of teenagers. We created all these little clinics because our teenagers are committing suicide. This was 25 years ago. 25 years ago. We have a school district that is doing the best it can, and I would like for us to always maintain the framework of a district that's not going through this. We act like we don't want excuses to damage our district. Okay, so what I want people to understand is when I mention in locus parentis, it's the legal term that is used by the assembly and the government to tell us we have to be concerned as if we were the parents. At one time, I was the parent of kids in this school district, and the uncle, and the brother. The thing is, we have got to come to our senses that anything we do to end this pandemic quicker is better. And all this nonsense, and I disagree with Mr. That masks don't work. We're not doctors, but masks work. Okay, they do work. Stay away from each other works. Okay, all this stuff has kept us from falling completely apart. And New Jersey is one of those districts, one of those states that's going to succeed. We're almost there. And we have to cooperate. We just have to do the hard work of doing what we got to do even if we don't like to. Otherwise, it's going to keep going and going like a snowball. It's never going to stop. Thank you.
Mr. Brunetsky?
Just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. A little democracy in action is always good to see. We'll see you next month.
Mr. Walsh?
I'd like to thank everybody who worked on the green schools. Switlick did a very, very good job. It's probably the same group that's doing the Sustainable Jersey, which they're doing a good job there. I see that we're maintaining silver and bronze in all of our schools as far as that's concerned. Okay, I also like to see that the ESIP is paying some benefits as we have saved energy and had a rebate from, I think it's the state government. Okay, so we actually got some money back. Hopefully that continues with all the energy savings that they put forward. And I love to see the art program that's going on at Jackson Liberty, and hopefully we can expand that to some other schools. I've been through the elementary schools, and they got some great courtyards in some of those elementary schools. Good night.
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening and everyone's input and, the presentations that were shown. The administration and the staff all around have been doing an amazing job and working tirelessly. I thank you all for coming out this evening and have a great night. A motion to adjourn.
Motion. Motion.
By acclamation?
That was me.
Everybody has a vision.
What if yours is making videos?
At Jackson Television, we do this every summer.
Here, we make short films.
We also produce TV shows.
We also make music videos, too.